This is your ultimate stop for everything sports. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Should I say more? From the NFL, MLB, the NBA to MMA, it's all in here. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Listen now.
GSMC Sports Podcast presented by GSMC Podcast Network. My name is Chris Blades, and before I get started here today, I want to make sure I take the time out to remind you, as always, if you haven't already, subscribe to the podcast. Make sure you never miss an episode. Make sure you're always on top of when we drop our latest stuff. Also, if you could please as well, wherever you listen to your podcast, give us a 5-star rating, write us a nice review. We're very appreciated, very helpful. I'll see what you guys like, what you guys dislike, the ways we can improve, all that fun stuff. And also, if you're on social media, we're on social media, so you can find us there, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. We can talk, we can chat, we can debate, we can discuss. And as we continue to discuss, I guess I should say, the NBA bubble, I first want to give a shout out to the Nets for actually trying tonight, unlike the Bucks and the Mavs. Though, I mean, I need the Bucks. I mean, I need the Mavs not to try because I wanted the Suns to get in. But then the Bucks, like, again, and I didn't talk about this on the last episode, but Giannis, like, that headbutt was, like, kind of wild. I don't understand, like, why he got so mad. I wasn't watching the game, so I don't know the full context, and maybe Mo Wagner was really being annoying, but, like, again, just headbutting some guy for no reason, especially after, like, it's like he got into it with the Wizards, who, like, they're not even in the playoffs, like, why so serious? He got into it with the Nets. Again, the team, well, at least the Nets are going to make the playoffs. But it's just like two lowly teams. It's just like what's the beef for? Like who? I was just confused. I'm like, why Giannis gotta be acting so tough? But again, the headbutt. It's kind of funny because I think at any other point in the season he gets suspended for more games than one. Because I mean that's headbutting some guy is kind of wild in the middle of a basketball game. That's like kind of interesting behavior. But again, it's the playoffs. They're not going to suspend him for a playoff game. That was never going to happen. You have to actually do it in the playoffs in order for that to happen. And he also got suspended for a game. He was most likely going to play very little in any way, so it really didn't matter for him. But I thought that was funny. Yeah, so shout out to the Nets for actually playing hard. And for the last, I guess the last regular season game. Because the playing game on Saturday, that's technically like the playoffs. But for the last regular season game in the bubble, it delivered a great game, which is really all the NBA could ask for. And that's all they could ask for in general for this entire bubble. And a lot of the games have been pretty good, especially the games they've been able to put on national TV, especially in those games where people are actually both playing. Because as we've seen throughout the bubble, some teams are trying certain days and not other days. Some teams are playing guys, some teams are resting guys. It all kind of depends, especially as we got further along in the bubble. People were much more worried about health than they were about making sure that everybody got 8 games worth of playing time. But shout out to the Nets because they said they were going to try to win, and they did try to win. They had a shot there at the end after Melo missed the corner 3. That would have put the Blazers up 4 and all but sealed it. They had a shot. Karras had a shot. Don't know why he shot the step back because he had a lot of success driving to the rim, getting closer to the rim for his shots all game. And it's not like CJ's lockdown defender. Plus, he's playing with a fractured back. So, I mean, you would think, but again, I'm not an NBA player. I'm not going to tell these guys what to do. Karras had 37 tonight. He played great the entire game. So again, I can only say but so much about him when you play that well, like because I could never score 37 points in the NBA game. But yeah, he had 37. Shot the ball 29 times and not realize that. But hey, I mean, when you're looking at the rest of the Nets roster, even though like Ty Johnson played well off the bench, TLC played well off the bench, like they need to get scoring from somewhere. He's gonna have the ball a lot, so it makes sense. And plus, like I said, he had the hot hand, so him shooting 29 times not that surprising. Also had 9 assists, which is good because it just showcases his playmaking ability, which will be nice, especially since he's most likely going to be the third guy, assuming they don't trade him, with KD and when KD and Kyrie come back. So yeah, that was just cool for him to continue to show people, because again, he's had a good season when he's been healthy, but now more people can see Karras on a bigger stage, a national TV stage, in a game with some stakes, not for the Nets, but for the Blazers. Yeah, it was a great game. Dame was still doing Dame things. Had 42, 12 assists because he was getting double teamed a lot. So he had to assist the ball. So he had to be willing to pass, and also when he drove, he was also willing to pass. So that was helpful. Hit 8 threes, including one from basically just inside the logo of half court, because they were double teaming him, and he was like, you know what, screw this. And before they could even double team me, let me get the shot off. Nothing but net, because I mean, he's just so good from deep. It's pretty wild how well he can shoot the ball from an extended range. Probably only like him, Steph, and like maybe Trae Young. I don't know. We have to see it a little bit more often, but those are probably the only guys where they put a shot up from 30 plus, and you're like, oh, that's probably going in. Like you're almost surprised when it doesn't. So yeah, he played well. Nurkic played well, which makes sense because the Nets really don't I mean, Jared Allen plays center, but he's only I thought I was going to say 6'10". He's 6'11". Nurkic is a full 7 feet, if I remember correctly. Yeah, full 7 feet, 290. Jared Allen's only like 240 something, I believe, at least according to ESPN, the app. So the big size advantage. Plus, they had Whiteside coming in off the bench. Like they killed them on the glass. And I mean, it's just the thing where the Nets are at a disadvantage when you don't have a DeAndre Jordan in the bubble. You don't have a guy in KD who's, again, he's not a center, but he's another guy that's over like 6'10". So yeah, just missing out on a couple tall guys. They don't have anyone to come off the bench. Claxton, the rookie for them, is hurt. So it was unfortunate. But again, this is the kind of thing that the Blazers could be able to utilize if in the playoffs against potentially the Lakers, if they beat the Grizzlies, which they should. I don't think the Grizzlies, as currently constructed, can beat them twice. But hey, crazier things have happened, I guess, especially in the bubble. The Suns just went 8-0, and we'll talk about them in a second. But yeah, so shout out to the Blazers for getting the win. It would have been unfortunate for Dame to play so well and have a season end like that, though. I mean, it would have been interesting to have his season end on a last-second shot where he ended the Thunder season on a last-second shot. Not the same teams, obviously, but it just, kind of returning the favor, if you will. But yeah, so it would be good to see them. And then, I guess we'll see what happens Saturday, because that's when the 2:30, when the games, I don't know why so early in the day, but whatever. 2:30, and then I think if the Grizzlies win because they're the 9 seed, then they'll play again on Sunday. And then the first game will be against the Lakers on Tuesday night. I think like the 9 o'clock slot will be the first playoff game. We'll do a whole first round preview on the next episode. But I would just want to say the Suns got hosed. The fact that you could go undefeated in the bubble and still not even get into the play-in seems kind of pointless for why they even came down there. But again, it is one of those, everyone was talking about oh, they should have played better during the season, blah blah blah. And technically, sure, yeah, I don't disagree with your point overall. But when your second best player misses a lot of time, you're probably not going to be that good, as we saw what happened with the Grizzlies. The Grizzlies, Jaren Jackson got hurt second, third game, something like that, and they weren't that good after he was gone. So it's not that surprising. Yeah, just unfortunate because it seems like the whole so yeah, Ayton only played in 37 games throughout the entirety of the year, and obviously 8 of them came in the bubble. So then that's 29 games during the regular season, pre-bubble that he played. So again, it's one of those things where Devin Booker was having to do a lot of the hard work, and even that's crazy. The crazy, I don't say craziest, but an even crazier aspect of the Suns and how impressive their run was that their second best player throughout the year, who was Kelly Oubre, also didn't play in the bubble. So again, obviously you have Ayton back, so that helps, but the guy that had been doing a lot of that extra work alongside Dame throughout most of the year, Devin Booker, didn't even get to play. and they were still able to do what they did. So, shout out to the Suns. Like I said, it is kind of unfortunate that they didn't. Because my thing is, I don't imagine they figured multiple teams would be this close when they thought of this like play-in idea. Because it's just like one of those things where it's like, all right, so take the Blazers for example. I think they played one more game than the Suns did throughout the season. So again, we don't know whether the Suns would have won or lost that game. But if they had played an extra game pre-bubble, then maybe, because I think they had the season series against them, or they had the tiebreaker. That's what what Twitter was saying. Don't know that for a fact, but if that is in fact true, then that extra game might have propelled them into a spot where they would have been in the playing game, as opposed to the Blazers being in. So it's just like, again, it's just unfortunate for them that you could be the best team in the bubble and still that mean absolutely nothing at the end of the day. Like I said, you don't even get a shot to play for a spot in the playoffs. You just gotta take a good record and hopefully build on it next year. So it's unfortunate. I want to see. Obviously, we all wanted to see. I don't want to say all, but most non-Grizzlies fans wanted to see the Blazers and Suns matchup. But like I said, the Bucks decided to take that off and couldn't even do us that one favor. Because again, Grizzlies, shout out to them. They played well throughout the season. I think they beat the Suns 3-1 in the season series throughout the year, so that's why they get it in. That's why they get the tiebreaker over them. So that's unfortunate for the Suns. But again, in theory, you want to make the bubble matter a little bit, and you would think the performance in the bubble should matter a little bit towards, like I said, that play-in scenario. The rest of the teams, it doesn't even matter because they were all basically in the playoffs. But for those playing teams, that's the reason why you brought back 5 teams from the West that were out of the playoffs, is because, it's so tight, you don't know who could get in. And then, like I said, you have a team go 8-0. Even the Spurs, like they played really well. It's unfortunate that even if they had won today, because they didn't, but even if they had won, it wouldn't have mattered. And then by the time they even started playing, they already knew they were out of the playoffs. So it was like one of those things where it doesn't even matter, honestly, for them, like what happened. So, like, I'm not saying they didn't try hard, but it's just like you lose some of that edge when you know the game is meaningless, personally. So, yeah, like I said, just unfortunate that the Suns don't even get a chance. But we'll see how Saturday goes. Like I said, the Blazers should win, but, I mean, eventually Dame's going to, hit E, you would think. Just because, again, he's been playing a lot of minutes, scoring a lot of points, doing a lot of heavy lifting for that Blazers team. And I mean, basketball is one of those sports where like one great player could propel a team on a nice run, but it's just hard to expect him to do that game night after night. I think he had like 154 in this 3-game span, which was like the most anybody had through a 3-game span like this season. Or something like that, yeah. And they were all wins. So, just crazy. The output he's had, especially since just in the bubble overall. Obviously going to win the bubble MVP. But just ever since that Clippers game, where people were like he said, disrespecting him and not putting the proper respect on his name, and now he showed them that, hey, look, this is what I can do. When, like I said, when the rubber meets the road. I can't name one other time I've used that saying, but you get the point. When you need to have it, when you have to have it games, and he's shown up and shown out in every one of those games for the Blazers, at least in the restart. So shout out to them. They deserved it. I'm not going to be that mad. I'm more, like I said, more mad at the Bucks, because it should have been Suns Blazers, the 2 best teams, arguably the 2 hottest teams in the bubble. I said, don't even get the chance. The Suns just got to go home and hope to build off this next year, which hopefully they can. They played well. The young guys played well. Monty Williams did a good job with the coaching and everything. And it's just one of those things where, like, if they have everybody healthy, their team's not terrible. Now, I don't know if it'll make the playoffs in the West, because the West is very difficult, but at least they'll be competitive, which is a good sign for them. Because, again, you want to be competitive, so Devin Booker has incentive to stay with the team, as opposed to being like, you know what, I'm tired of losing, I'm out. And also, again, it just allowed people to see how good Devin Booker is on a more national scale, because again, no one really watches Suns games unless they have to. They're not on national TV that much. They don't get any primetime games because, again, it's the Suns. But it was nice to to see a more casual fan realize, like, oh, Devin Booker is actually more than just a scorer. Because that was the thing. He's like, he scores a lot of points but doesn't contribute to winning basketball. Like, no. Again, is his team under 500 right now? Yes. Are they in the playoffs? No. But as you can see, he can contribute to winning basketball. It's just that this is the first year he's had a real legitimate NBA caliber point guard. I guess apparently outside of Tyler Johnson, who looked good for the Nets in the restart. And then this is Monty Williams is the best coach he had. And he's only 23, so as great as he's been up until this point, he still has even more room to grow, especially as a defender and as a playmaker. Which, again, he's not bad at either of those things right now, but, you can always get better, and then I guess he could become a better scorer. I don't know. He'll probably average 30 in a season one year. He's that good on the offensive end. So, I said Saturday, we'll see what happens with that. And speaking of the playing game, it got me thinking, and obviously I'm not the first person to think of this or discuss this, but people were talking about, like, should this be a new thing? Like, should the 8th and 9th seed in each conference be decided by a playing game? And I'm kind of on the fence about it. So we'll talk through it. I'll give my opinions, my thoughts, and see why I'm both for and against the idea. So we'll discuss all of that right after the break. Stay right there.
Are you looking for the very best NFL and college football podcast? Then check out the GSMC Football Podcast. Get the latest football news both on and off the field. From the NFL Draft to trades to the rumor mill to the NFL Combines, they got you covered. That's GSMCpodcast.com/football-podcast. Get updates on college rivalries, game day insights, and much, much more. It's football talk the way you want it. This show eats, sleeps, and breathes football. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit GSMCpodcast.com for more info.
Here again on the GSMC Sports Podcast, presented by GSMC Podcast Network. So, before I get started on my opinions on if the play-in tournament should be here, or playing games, I should say, should be here to stay, I first want to apologize to Lakers fans out there. I know I said that the Blazers are a team that they should be afraid of, and I'm not saying they aren't. Again, if Dame's going to play this well and shoot this well, and assuming Gary Trent's going to hit his shots, the back is going to hold McCollum up too much, I guess. Mel's going to hit some shots because he did miss that. Like I said, he did miss the three in the corner that would have sealed it. So he was going to get a lot of slander on Twitter if Karras had hit that step back. So good for him that didn't happen, because that's not the way you want your season to end. You missing a wide open three. Nurkic down low is good. Whiteside gives them good minutes off the bench. So yeah, like I was saying, I'd said that they should be afraid of them, and I don't necessarily disagree with that. I'm still not certain who they have to cover Dame, and if Dame's going to be hitting shots and shooting from as far as he's shooting now, he's going to be tough to defend. But their defense, so porous, so bad, so bad. Now again, their offense has been sensational, so it's one of those things. Like, they haven't scored under 110 points, I believe. And their lowest scoring game was against the Rockets, where they scored 110. They scored in the 120s 6 times. So it's just like one of those things where, like, their offense has been sensational, obviously partly because Dame has been sensational. But defense, not good at all. First game, they gave up 135 to the Grizzlies. They gave up 128 to the Celtics, 102 to the Rockets. That was their lowest game, which is actually kind of funny that it was against the Rockets, because obviously they are another high-powered offense. But that was James Harden only had 23, Russ only had 15. Like, they just didn't shoot that well, or they didn't perform that well offensively in that game. So it is what it is. They gave it 115 to the Nuggets, not so bad. Give it 122 to the Clippers. Give it 121 to the Sixers with no Embiid or Simmons. Embiid missed most of the game, and obviously Simmons was already out by then. Give it 131 to the Mavericks, who again are a good offensive team, so I'm not going to disparage them too much. I gave it 133 to the Nets. And like I said, the Nets basically could get almost any shot they wanted, except for really at the rim, and depending on who it was. But like Harris could do whatever he wanted. Like I said, TLC was hitting shots. Tyler Johnson was hitting shots. Joe Harris gets shots when he wanted them from time to time. It was just one of those situations where that defense is going to be rough in the playoffs. If that's how they play. Again, maybe their defense will look better, so I don't want to completely write them off. But if that's the defense they're going to play against the Lakers, I mean, LeBron is going to be able to do most of what he wants. Because I don't know who's going to guard him. Melo? So I think based on do you start the game with no, because you can't put or do you put Melo and McGee, because you can't put Melo and Anthony Davis. That wouldn't make any sense. And then I guess you have him guard Kuzma down the stretch late in games when they're both in. It's just I do think Melo will get up for a LeBron James matchup. Obviously that's his boy, and they've been through a lot. They have a long history together. And this would be the first time they've ever matched up in the playoffs. No, they matched up with when he was on the Knicks, I believe. So take that back. First time they matched up in the playoffs in a while. Or did they match up with them? I think they matched up at least one time. I could be wrong with that. Please correct me if I am. But yes, it's been the first time in a long time. It's probably going to be one of the last times, depending on if Melo decides to come back next year with the Blazers. So he's going to get up for it. But again, I don't know who's going to guard him. And if it's not Melo, then Gary Trent Jr., CJ McCollum, Hazonia, that doesn't seem like it would be good. Even, like I said, even a 35-year-old Bron, that's still probably not going to be good enough. And then, like I said, Dame and CJ, they're going to try on defense, but they're not exactly locked down. I don't think they have a guy that's a really good defender. Nurkic isn't bad in the post. Zach Collins also isn't bad. And then Whiteside blocks a lot of shots, but as you can see sometimes, even in this Nets game, if you go in and block every shot, then you're leaving the potential offensive rebound opportunity available due to the fact that if you don't get the block. Like I said, if you miss it and then it comes off the rim or comes off the backboard, now a team with more size, like the Lakers, will be able to get some of those offensive rebounds and you kick them back out for threes or get easy twos. So it's just one of those situations where the defense is going to have to step up its game, because then you can't just count on Dame to score 40 every night. He might do it. I'm not gonna put it past him at this point, but you can't just expect that. You have to play some defense in the playoffs. So, like I said, until I see that, I have to retract my statement a little bit, because the Lakers shouldn't have any issues with that defense, because no one's really had any issues with that defense, I guess, outside of really the Rockets. I said they're the only team to score under 110 against them. So, it is one of those situations where they're going to have to figure something out on that end of the ball. But as I was going to talk about the play-in situation. So, pros for, again, not just for a bubble situation, for a continued, having a thing that continues every season. The pros are that the end of the season games are more interesting. Because a lot of times you see games where, guys, as you saw in the bubble, you have guys, in certain teams, they're resting guys. If you're the Nuggets, if you're the Suns, and there's no play-in situation, who knows if Devin Booker plays in all 8 of these games? Because again, it's not impossible, but just one of those situations where if you were too far back after a certain point, you might just be all right, I'm going to play you a little bit here, play you a little bit there, but we're not going to go out there and get you hurt seriously, potentially, and risk losing you for the next season, or even part of the next season. Maybe you don't get the sense of urgency. Dame, obviously, it would have been different for him, because he would have been fighting for it. But then, as he was the main one pushing for something like this, because he said he didn't want to go down if there was no stakes really. If basically their only way to get into the playoffs was to be the 8 seed, which again they did end up doing that, so that helps. But say they were if they had to actually be the 8 seed in order to get into the playoffs, and there was no play-in situation, the things might have gone differently. The minutes might have been different. They might have been resting guys. They might not have played Dame 40 minutes every night, things like that. and we wouldn't have got some of these great games that we've gotten in this restart. So that's one of the pros for me, just that it makes these end of the season games more interesting. And even when we've seen this situation where you've had a playing game, I think it was a couple years ago, the Wolves and the Nuggets, they had a playing game the after the last day of the regular season for that 8 seed that one year, and that was great. It went down to the wire, and that's just like that every game matters aspect to the season that always, or to a game that makes it more interesting for fans. Obviously, that's why so many people love the NCAA tournament, and the NFL playoffs, things like that. Even though I would argue the NHL playoffs might be the most interesting. And MLB too. Well, all playoffs are good. Let me just not say that. But I feel like the NBA one's usually the least anticlimactic, because normally in 7-game series the best team wins. Baseball is a lot more random, so things could happen. And hockey is more random as well, where teams will come back from down 3-0, or you'll have the best team in the league lose in the first round. Like that rarely ever happens in the NBA. But yeah, so just one of those things where like that added intensity to the end of the season could be good for just good for the competitive nature of the game, but also just good from a fan perspective, just like add more enjoyment, and makes you like, all right, so some of these late in season games, like they actually do mean something, and it gives guys more to play for down the stretch. And like I said, now you're not resting guys and playing guys sparingly in the last week or 2 weeks of the season. Like I said, that's one of the pros. But one of the cons of it would be, how would you do it? So would it be a situation where it's just like, if the 9 seed is within 4 games, like that's how it would go? Or would you have to expand it a little bit? Because like I said, with the Suns, they played great down the stretch. But because the Blazers had played one more game before the restart started, they ended up, like I said, they ended up being in ahead of them, just because of the win percentage and stuff like that. Where the Suns couldn't win any more games. All they could do was go down there and win every game they had. They couldn't do anything more than that. So they had the schedule. All right, cool. We're going to go down there. We're going to try to win every game, and then they did. And then at the end of the day, like I said, it didn't end up mattering. So it's one of those situations where do you make it like a tournament, like a round robin type of thing, or like a single elimination type of thing, where you have, like, say there's like 3 teams or 4 teams all within like 1 game or 2 games, like basically like there were this time, where there's like 4 teams within 2 games of that 8 seed. Do you do like a round robin type thing, like I said, single elimination type of thing, as opposed to just doing the 8 and the 9 seed, just to even so? Like I said, with the first point was that so these lower teams, because again, if just the 9 seeds in the play-in tournament, like all right, if you're 2 games back of like if you're too far back, then you're not even going to bother late in the season. But if you know there's like, all right, if we're within this many games of the 8 seed, then we have a chance to be in this play-in tournament. All right, then like I said, that adds more intrigue, and that potentially could add more competitiveness to those end of season games that can be, not always are, but can be a little anticlimactic because guys are just worried about making sure they're healthy for the playoffs. And especially if you're like have a seed locked up, you already know your playoff matchup. It's like, what is it? Like tomorrow's games. Every playoff matchup outside of, again, the 8 seed in the West is set. Everybody knows who they're playing. Everybody knows when they're playing. Those games are really just because they have to finish out the schedule, and like they don't really mean anything. No one's going to care whether you win or lose. Obviously, you want to play well in your last game before the playoffs, but like it doesn't what's the point? I'd imagine most people aren't even going to watch those games. Like I said, they don't mean anything. There's no stakes, and I feel like people are always tuned into something. Either whether it's got to be a regular season, got to be a great matchup, or the stakes have to be high in the game. Like whether it's like 2 MVPs going at it, or like this game is for the 1 seed or the 2 seed potentially, or something like that. Those are the kind of stakes the average person needs to be tuned into sports. That's why Super Bowl has such high viewership every year, is just because the stakes are so high. You know, you get 1 chance for the championship in the NFL. This is it. This is all you got. So then everyone wants to tune in because like, oh my gosh, if I don't see this game, then I won't. Then you'll miss it, and then obviously you'll be able to find it on social media or whatever. But like I said, this is the only game. This is it. It all comes down to this kind of thing. And so it would just be like, how would you do it? Would you just do like 8 and 9 like it was this year, or would you kind of try to expand it? Like I said, set a barometer where obviously it said that there was a play-in if the 9th seed was within 4 games, but what if the 10th seed is within 4 games, or the 11th seed was within 4 games? What does that mean? Would you have to expand it, shorten it? And I think that might not be a bad idea for them to do, just in case, because then that's not going to happen every year. Sometimes the 9-10 seeds are going to be so far behind, it won't even matter. You just be able to do the play. You just be able to play straight through. Like you just have the 8 seeds, and like it doesn't even matter. Like I said, sometimes where the West is really competitive and it's going back and forth the entire time. All right, if like I said, if you have a situation like where the Grizzlies, where they played well before the restart, then they get to the restart, they got some injuries, got some people banged up, and now they start dropping games. Like, again, injuries happen in sports. So you don't want to give them too much of a push or too much of a cushion. But at the same time, or just say like a Blazers situation, you get guys back from injury late in the season, and you want to try to make a run with them. But again, you might only have a few games to do it. So again, that play-in tournament would give them, all right, if we get these guys back, we'll have a better chance as opposed to we just need to be the 8 seed kind of thing. So it's just one of those things. And plus, also, it adds more. Like I said, adds more randomness to the NBA, which I feel like is needed for the playoffs. Because like I said, with 7-game series, generally speaking, the better team wins 8 out of 10 times. You could argue, like the team that was better, usually in that series, or even in the regular season, usually wins that series 8 out of 10 times. In my personal opinion, it might even be higher in the NBA. But just like again, from what I watch, it very rarely do you see what people would consider like upsets. Like very rarely does that happen, in my opinion. In the NBA playoffs, at least, like very rarely you're like, oh wow, I'm shocked this team made it this far, or I'm shocked this team made it to the finals, or I'm shocked this team won. Generally speaking, the teams that have won recently have been high seeds, they've been favorites. So yeah, just to add a little bit more randomness and a little more intrigue to the playoffs. You could have the play-in situation, like I said, try to expand it so you don't have teams that get hot at the end, just like, oh well, too late, should have been better the other stretch of the season. Which again, that's going to be people's point, like, oh, if you weren't so bad the first 70 games, you wouldn't have been in the scenario, which is fair. I get that point, but also, like, again, you're giving too much credit for being good early. Because if you're bad late heading into the playoffs, like again, that's not any fun to watch or head into the playoffs. And you want to be feeling good about yourself. So then, even if you had a good lead and then you drop back, now this play-in tournament get you feeling good, especially like in this scenario. Grizzlies have dropped they're 2-6 in the restarts, I believe. So they've struggled mightily in the bubble, for various reasons, but they've struggled mightily. And now I got to play 2 games in order to even get into the playoffs. But like I said, then it rewards them for being good in the regular season because they didn't drop out, but also rewards the Blazers for hanging around enough to then getting hot at the right time because everyone wants to be hot as you head into the playoffs. So I don't know. It'd be an interesting thing to consider. I know they've talked about different tournaments, like whether it's mid-season or like end of season kind of thing. Since they tried this out and this bubble playing thing seems to have worked, we'll see if, like I said, the Blazers should beat the Grizzlies pretty easily, in my opinion. But we'll see. Maybe that works out well as well, and you get 2 games out of that. But like I said, this bubble worked. The games have been interesting for a basketball fan. I don't know about for the average person, but for a basketball fan, they've been interesting. They've been fun to watch. They've been relatively good. So it's just one of those things where you saw some success with it. Let's see if this continues. Because it's great. Like I said, having the last game of the season have such massive, the last day for a lot of these teams of the season have such massive stakes. It's important. Now you got to watch, like, all right, we have this game going on at this time, this game going on at that time. It's a lot of like the last week of the NFL thing, where teams are like, where you see teams like, oh, we need this team to win, or we need that team to win, or we're at the stadium or in the locker room, like watching teams on TV as they play their games, or we're finding out, oh, we're this seed or that seed kind of thing. That very rarely do all the different seeds come down to the last game of the season in the NFL. So, like I said, in order to add a little bit more intrigue, a little bit more randomness, I think this a play-in tournament. Like I said, you got to figure it out how you would do it, who gets in, how many teams, stuff like that, what the barometer is or what the baseline is. But I think you could do it, and I think it wouldn't be a bad idea. So we'll see. Like I said, we'll see how the game goes on Saturday, and we'll see if this continues next season and beyond. I think it could work, a play-in type tournament for the last seed on both conferences. Obviously, you didn't have one in the East because the Wizards are so bad. But once Bradley Beal was coming, you knew that. We just do it in both conferences. Again, just to add a little bit more intrigue. But again, that's just me personally. I like randomness a little bit. So, and like I said, that's just me. And speaking of intrigue, obviously we know that 2 conferences aren't playing football in the fall. We'll see if the other 3 make it through their season completely, because we don't know. We'll have to, like I said, that's more of a wait and see kind of thing. But one of the coaches from the Big Ten laid out his detailed plan for how he thinks spring football could be played and played successfully. And I mean, it's really just winter football, but like in the spring semester, you could say. So we'll discuss this plan, and I'll tell you whether I agree with it, how I think it'll work, if it makes sense, all that fun stuff. So we'll talk about that after this break. Stay right there.
Check out the show that's built on the MMA. From the UFC to extreme cage fighting, they got the fights covered. Check out the GSMC MMA podcast. Get the latest news on past or upcoming fights. Join us as we talk to and about some of the biggest names in the MMA, past, present, and future. When it's the fight game, there's just one show to check out. GSMCpodcast.com/MMA-podcast. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit GSMCpodcast.com for more info.
GSMC Sports Podcast, presented by GSMC Podcast Network. So this is from SportsIllustrated.com. Purdue coach Jeff Brom unveiled his plan, a startlingly detailed document that was sent to Sports Illustrated. And if you go to the article, they have it hyperlinked, so you can click on it there. I think it's like 9 pages. So, quite again, he clearly thought this out. I'm not saying, I don't know if it was just him, but he's the one that sent it, obviously. But clearly thought this out, and he has an idea in place of how spring football could be done. This is sent out to Sports Illustrated on Thursday. The plan calls for an 8-game regular season in the spring, starting at the end of February and ending in mid-April, with the playoff that begins and ends in May. Then a fall 2020 season that runs 10 games and starts October 2nd with a traditional postseason, obviously, like you would have with the other conferences and stuff. I think it's important to put something together that proves it's doable to have a spring season, Brom told SI. For these football players, especially our seniors, this gives them a chance to have that. This is not the only idea floating around the Big Ten for how to make 2 seasons work in a single calendar year. Albert Breer reported earlier Thursday, there was a discussion elsewhere within the league about a season that begins January 1st, not June. That would be way too late, obviously. Begins January 1st, with 5 indoor stadiums serving as anchor home game locations for multiple teams. As with everything else in 2020, there are competing viewpoints on the best way to proceed. Neither plan is without drawbacks. Purdue's plan impacts 2 seasons. The other plan takes games off of almost all home campuses and makes both teams travel to one location. The Purdue plan works in no bye weeks in the spring 2021 schedule and just 1 in the fall 2021 schedule. And the other plan completely conflicts with basketball, with college basketball's most likely season schedule. There are obviously no perfect plans in this Rona world. But at least coaches and administrators around the conference are actively engaged in trying to make it work. I'm all for whatever is best for our conference and best for college football, Brom said. I wanted to get the ball rolling. This is not the only idea. It's just to say it can be done. To just say it can't be done, is giving in. I wish all Power 5 conferences had been in it together. That was a disappointment to me. Brom's plan goes into granular detail about how to make 2 seasons work in one calendar year with the full schedule of when practices and preseason camps would occur. One of the keys to Brom's idea is a reduction in padded practices, which would limit the overall wear and tear on players who are being asked to play a minimum of 18 games in a calendar year. So yeah, it's interesting. Like I said, this 9 pages you can read up on them all through SI.com. But just again to give you a little bit more detail of the plan itself, the plan calls for, like I said, 8 games. In the Big Ten season, they're broken down to 6 divisional games and 2 crossover games against the other division, preserving rivalries where applicable, such as Purdue's game against Indiana. The first 2 weeks of games would be held on the campuses of the southernmost teams in the league, and the last 2 weeks would be at the northernmost teams in an attempt to account for rugged Midwestern weather. Obviously, it's not going to be that warm. Even in State College, not going to be that warm in February. Not going to be that warm in Michigan. Not going to be that warm in Wisconsin. Not going to be that warm in Minnesota. Even Ohio. Like, again, a lot of these places, it's not going to be that warm come February. So playing football, while not impossible, because again, you can play in cold weather, seems like less likely. But again, you gotta have plans. So then, like I said, you go to the southernmost states. Hopefully, there will be the warmest during that time. And as it ideally would get warmer in the year, you move it up. So that, at least in theory, that would make some semblance of sense if that was a thing you were going to be worried about, just how in the world you would be able to get these games played in a scenario where, like I said, weather, if it came in the spring season, weather would most certainly be a factor, and probably one of the biggest factors, in my own personal opinion, just because that's probably the biggest reason or biggest way to question how a season would even be able to get done. It's just the fact that it's going to be so, and most of these teams don't have domes, so you're going to be asking people to play outdoors, and like I said, that's not going to be an easy task in the Midwest, or I guess, well, not really, I guess, yeah, Midwest of the country. So like I was saying, the divisional games and then the 2 crossover games, trying to preserve rivalries when you can. Football will be played on Saturdays, and basketball played on Sundays. The document makes mention of a Plan B option that was proposed by Michigan's Jim Harbaugh, which would make the final week of the season a crossover division matchup of the teams according to seeding. West Division number 1 seed versus East Division number 1, West number 2 versus East number 2, and so forth. The matchup between the top seeds would be for the conference championship. Among other proposed benefits of Brown's plan, the hope that a vaccine would be available. We'll see about that. Also, because again, you can't. I don't know how would you require all the students to get it when you don't know if it's going to work. Like, that seems another dangerous game to be playing. Again, if they're all worried about the liability and the different things regarding that, that does seem a little bit like bold to have all the guys take a vaccine that you're not certain works. You believe it works, it's been tested, but again, by February, I don't know if you have it widespread enough to be able to tell for certain. Again, they're going to run it through the trials and do the proper protocols and procedures with it, but I don't believe vaccines are normally made that quickly, though. Again, we have needed a vaccine for something this big in years now. So medicine's more advanced than it ever has been in the country and in the world. So if there was a time to do it, it would be now in order to get a quick vaccine turnaround. But again, you got to be careful of that. And also, not everybody believes in vaccines. Like, how does that work? It's one of those things. Like I said, another proposed benefit was more periods of complete rest for the players. Also, a higher probability of more fans in the stands, which means ticket sales and traditional college football atmosphere. That is such an integral part of the game. I'm not going to lie, Brom said, while we all would like to play, I'm not sure our guys would be as excited to go to Michigan and Penn State to play with nobody in the stands. I mean, that's completely reasonable. College football, especially, do affect the students and different than like the atmosphere of those games is not to say it's different from professional sport, because obviously the atmosphere of certain professional stadiums can be just as loud and raucous and rowdy as a college game. But again, going to certain games or going to certain stadiums in college for certain games is just a different experience, in my own personal opinion. So it's one of those things where without that, it's just like, it's just like another game. Then again, it doesn't mean the games can't be good, as we've seen with basketball, as we've seen with all the sports, really. Hockey, baseball, soccer. It doesn't matter. Games can be good with or without fans, but like I said, the atmosphere is just going to be a weird thing to deal with since you'll be playing in the home stadiums. Like I said, in Orlando, they're playing in a completely different gym, so it's not like you're in It's not like you're in MSG. Obviously, the next one would be in the playoffs. But you're not in you're not in the Moda Center. You're not in Staples Center. You're not in I forget what the Toyota Center. I believe that's what the Houston Rockets thing is. You're not in whatever Milwaukee Stadium is called. You're not in Toronto for the game. Like, again, it's different. You're not dealing with Jurassic Park and all the other rowdiness. So yeah, just one of those things where, like I said, the atmosphere of the games would be a lot different, and that would be kind of weird at first. And if you gotta deal with it, you gotta deal with it. Is what it is. But I would imagine for these players that are used to playing in that sort of atmosphere, especially if they're going to be at those stadiums, it would be weird. Baseball, again, baseball is really only like crazy loud during the playoffs, in my personal opinion, because again, 81 home games, that's a lot to care for every game. And some of them during the day, some of them are at night. It's all different, but obviously playoff games are a different animal. But like regular season, it can be depending on, like, again, the team. But football, a lot of, even if it's a Seattle game, if it's a New Orleans game, no matter when the season is, it's always going to be kind of loud in there. So again, it's just all kind of different. And college football is the same way, where if you're going to State College, if you're going to Death Valley, LSU, Clemson, different stadiums, it's always going to be kind of crazy down there. No matter, like I said, no matter what game of the season it is, who they're playing, how well the team's doing, it's always going to be kind of crazy. So I'd imagine that would be take some getting used to, at the very least. Also, a window of opportunity for TV networks would be another benefit. TV windows and sports vacuums exist in parts of the spring. This obviously would also be a means of fulfilling contractual obligations that bring in crucial media rights millions. Because obviously, if they don't have a season, then they just lose all that TV money. Can't have that. And also an alleviation of eligibility and scholarship issues, with the spring and fall serving as two distinct seasons and counting each as the year of eligibility. This is a huge one for all parties involved. Current college players trying to figure out their future, incoming recruits trying to gauge scholarship limits, coach trying to manage his roster, the NCAA, which would be tasked with, the NCAA would be tasked with helping sort that kind of work out. So yeah, like I said, it's an interesting article, interesting document to read through, and just it's nice to see that, like, plans are being thought of, though. I think there was a report that came out that, like, the Big Ten didn't start thinking of spring football until, like, a couple of days before they canceled the season, which, if true, wild. I believe wild, especially since the Ivy League had already said they were doing it. And it's like, how did you not think of different backup plans? Like, again, it's just like, I feel like a lot of the talk around football, which is like the arrogance of, oh, we'll have it figured out everything will be fine by September. Like, we won't have to worry about this. We'll be through this. Like, everybody will be fine. And again, we could have been for looking at other countries, but we didn't handle it properly. That's neither here nor there. I feel like there's a lot of arrogance around football, specifically being like, oh, everything will be fine once football season comes. And, like, you realize, like, oh, it's not fine in some cases, and in a lot of cases, it's actually worse than it was when schools shut down and everything shut down back in March. So, yeah. But like I said, if that's true, it's wild that they didn't have a backup plan before they were like, oh, shoot, we might have to cancel the season. What do we do if we cancel the season? Like, how did no one think of this before? Like I said, the Ivy League had already canceled. Going to spring football. At that point is when you should have been like, all right, if this doesn't work, we should try to figure out what way we're going to do spring football. If it comes to that. Because, again, this wasn't like the Ivy League going, this wasn't like, again, it was maybe a little bit random, but it wasn't like a brand new thing. And it kind of, like I said, if that's true, it kind of makes sense, because how do you go from Big Ten, if you're like running, or even kind of Pac-12, you're going to put out our schedule, and then like within a week we'll be like, about that season's postponed. Like, if you really thought the season was going to be postponed, I don't know what changed in that week time that made you realize, like, oh, this might not work. Again, everything that you think you would have there from like a numbers standpoint or whatever would have been there before, but hey, like I said, I'm not in those meetings. I don't know what exactly went down. But if that's true, that they didn't start thinking of the spring football until a couple days before they actually canceled the season, that's kind of wild. And also, it's just going to be weird, and like I said, they probably need to get a season done regardless, but just going to be weird to see how the plans work, because obviously, in theory, the Pac-12 would try to do something similar, but due to the fact that like the other three Power 5 conferences are going to try to play football in the fall, whether or not they do or don't, well, I guess we'll have to wait and see if that works. But because there's no uniform decision, even though I think Mark Emery came out and said all fall championships are canceled, so basically they're just playing a regular season. There's no like playoff or anything, if that is in fact true. So then that's weird. But again, makes sense. There's no reason to. Maybe since the other Power 5 conferences didn't go do this along with the Big Ten and Pac-12, now you're kind of just on your own, trying to figure out your own plan as opposed to coming up with a uniform thing. Like, let's all do this, or let's all discuss this, or do whatever. Like the players kind of came together and were like, hey, let's be united in this and be united with that and stand with this and stand with that and demand these things. The coaches and like different league commissioners or whatever, or conference commissioners should have been like, hey, let's put together a plan for how we're going to do spring football. I think everybody's doing the same things, all uniform. Now again, you got this comp's doing this comp's doing that, this time is playing this amount of games or that amount of games. Like everybody's just kind of doing their own thing. So that's kind of the issue, is that there's been no central governing body to be like, hey, this is what we're doing with this. And I'm just like, all right, yeah, cool, wall fall. Like everyone's just like, hey, it's kind of like the way we've handled the pandemic as a country. It's like, oh, it's up to the states. Like, hey, you handle it the way you think is best. We handle it the way we think is best. We'll see which way it works out at the end. Kind of thing. So, yeah, we'll see how it goes. It'll be interesting to see. Well, at least they'll have more time to figure this out. They won't have to worry about getting the plan for spring football together like today or tomorrow, because obviously it's not happening. So yeah, they'll be able to figure that out, fine-tune the plan, fine-tune the details, and I guess see if they made a mistake. Because obviously if the college football is played without a hiccup, then clearly it could be done. But seeing as that seems unlikely, once you put kids back on campus, I think in Alabama they're like testing the guys, like all the different university schools in Alabama that people could go to, they're testing them. But again, that's done like 14 days before they show back up on. They're not testing like right before they get to campus. They're testing them like now, and I think they get back in like soonish, but I don't think it's not like Monday. So like you all right, you have a lot of time between. You think, all right, I'm cool, I'm in the clear. Then all of a sudden, like I said, you do something and risk catching it before then. And like I said, testing, like, are they going to have free testing on campus? It's like, well, let's be a whole mess. We'll get, like I said, that is what it is. So we'll see if that works. But, yeah, at least the Big Ten seems to have a plan for spring football going forward. So we'll see if it works, see if it doesn't. But at least they have something formulating and they're thinking about things. Because, again, if it's true that they didn't think about this until a couple days ago, kind of wild. And speaking of wild, the money. Some new tight ends, well, some of the best tight ends in the league got today, has been pretty interesting. And also what's pretty interesting is the fact that one tight end, who's also seeking a contract extension, did not get that. So we'll talk about the guys who did get paid, the guy who didn't get paid, and also what the team should do with the guy that didn't get paid. Because if you look through the fan base and the Twitter, or at least on Twitter, they're a little split on what should be done with that player. So we'll talk about that right after the break. Stay right there.
Are you looking for help for your fantasy football team? Check out the GSMC Fantasy Football Podcast. Get today's best advice on who to start, who to sit, even who you should draft. From sleeper picks to red hot lineups, they got it all covered for you. That's GSMCpodcast.com/fantasy-football-podcast. We'll cover traditional leagues, dynasty, PPR, even IDP leagues. When you need fantasy help, there's just one show to hit up. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit GSMCpodcast.com for more info.
Podcast Network. So, the San Francisco 49ers are making George Kittle the highest paid tight end in NFL history. By quite a bit, apparently. The Niners and Kittle agreed to a 5-year, $75 million contract on Thursday, lead sources confirmed to ESPN. The deal was first reported by Barstool, interestingly enough, which reports Kittle received $40 million guaranteed for injury and $30 million guaranteed at signing. The deal, which hasn't been selected for most of the offseason, easily surpassed the 4-year, $42 million contract Austin Hooper signed with the Cleveland Browns in March. And the average annual value is slightly more than the 4 years, $525 million extension given the tight end Travis Kelce late in the afternoon. We'll talk about it in a second. Kittle and Kelce are widely considered the two best at the position, so it makes sense why they got their deal done when they got it done. And just one of the situations where you kind of just knew it was coming. At some point, you didn't know exactly when it was going to go down. Because, again, no one's really privy to these negotiations and, like, when they do happen. But it was the thing, like, all right, if you knew Kittle was going to be the guy, if you know Kittle's your guy, just like I said, with a lot of teams, which is why the Dak situation is still so perplexing to me, is that if he's your guy, and you think he's going to be one of the cornerstones of your franchise, and you think he's vital to your team, then you just pay him what you think he's worth. Now, again, could maybe you got him for a little bit less, a little bit more, who knows? And who knows what would he look like if you hit the open market. What you knew Kittle's good for you. You knew it was very valuable to your team. So, hey, we'll give him the extension. This is what he wants. All right, cool. It's about $15 million a year. And like I said, if that's what he wants, then you just pay up. That's, again, you draft guys for them to hopefully be good enough for you to pay. And like I said, if it comes to the time where they're really good, then you pay them a little bit more. It is what it is. And Kittle is arguably the best tight end in the league, depending on who you ask. So, I mean, him getting money is not shocking to me. And like I said, he's not even just one of the best tight ends, he's one of the best players. He's ranked third in yards after catch in the last 3 seasons, behind only Christian McCaffrey, who's a running back, and Alvin Kamara, who's a running back. The other 2 guys in the top 5 are also running backs, Austin Eckler and James White. So, from a person that plays a receiver-ish position, because obviously running backs they can get handled the ball or throwing the ball. But obviously it's yards after catch. But you would think, like, it'd be a receiver. But no, it's George Kittle. He's one of the best receiving options in the league at any position. Running back, receiver, tight end, doesn't really matter. He's one of the best options. And like I said, he's part of the reason why Jimmy Garoppolo's job can be a little bit easier, because he's a guy, much like a lot of the guys on their team, he can get the ball. And once he's got the ball, he can just do a lot of very good, very impressive things with it. It makes it harder for him to get taken down. You can use him in different ways. And then, again, he's a guy that can turn a 5-10 yard reception into like a 50-yard catch. Like, he might only be 5-10 yards down the field. He catches it, breaks the tackle, makes another guy miss. And as we saw with the Saints, that was like a short little flat route, and he was able to get out, take up the sideline, and like drag guys, push guys over, do different things. I think it was the first Arizona game where he hits, I think it was like Buda Baker or somebody, he hit him with a nice route like deep down the field. He's running like post or corner post and like from the middle of the field. It's like he's just exceptional in the open field even before he gets the ball. Then obviously once he gets it, he can catch it and run away from the guys, whether it's the linebacker, safety, whoever's on him. He can catch it and either break the tackle or catch it and run away from them. So I say he's very, very vital to the offense. Plus, he's a very good blocker. They use him in so many different ways. I know there were times where they would do like different sweeps or like different outside runs with their running backs or their receivers going in jet motion, and he'd be like the lead blocker. It would just, like I said, they use him all over the place. So it makes sense why he's given the money that he was given. And the funniest thing is that he didn't even threaten to hold out. He was like, hey, look, I know they're going to give me the money at some point, so I'll just report, do all the right things. And then look, they were just like, you know what? You held up your end of the bargain, you played well, you're showing up here. Let me hold up our end of the bargain from the Niners side and then pay him the money that he rightfully deserved. So that makes total sense. I think, what was it, 2018? He set the record for most receiving yards in the season by a tight end when he had almost 1,400. Over the past 2 seasons, he ranked 6th in the NFL among all pass catchers with 2,400 yards, a little more than 2,400 yards, 11th in receptions, and 2nd in yards after the catch. This summer, NFL players ranked him as the 7th best player in the league, though we've mentioned, I've had my gripes with that list. So we'll talk. So that is what it is. And he's racked up almost 3,000 yards receiving, the most by a tight end in the NFL history after 3 seasons, surpassing Mike Ditka and Gronk, which is quite impressive. So yeah, he got his money. He deserved it. And also, as we touched on, Travis Kelce got his money, and he deserved it as well. And the funniest thing with this is just the fact that the the Chiefs continue to find ways to print money. But it's one of those things where, like, everyone's, like, so worried, like, oh, salary cap, we can't afford this, we can't afford that. I promise you, almost any NFL team can afford almost any guy if they want to afford him. Like, if they want to be able, like, hey, look, we want to make the room to keep this guy, we'll find a way. If we want to be able to extend this guy, we'll find a way. Like I said, if you want to, you can find a way. The salary cap is not a complete myth, but it's definitely not as, like, ironclad as, like, people like to think that it is. Everyone's like, oh, so worried about the cap, like, whatever, what will we do? How can we pay for this? How can we pay for that? Like, I promise you, if your team wants to make it work, they will make it work. And plus, at the end of the day, it's not even your money. So it's not your job to figure out, oh my gosh, how come you want to pay for this? I don't know. Oh my gosh, how's the GM going to make this work? I don't know. But that's what the GM gets paid to do, to figure out how to make it work. Under salary cap, this is what the owner, that's why he owns a team, is because he has the money to afford to pay these guys whatever their salary is. As I said, I always find it weird when fans are over concerned about salary cap or signing guys or giving guys extension or whatever. It's just like, look, that's not, you're a fan. You're not a GM, even though I like to think of myself as a good GM based on my abilities in franchise mode in Madden and on my team in 2K and like in MVP. Oh, not Road to the Show. That's career mode, but like in MLB the Show, in the franchise mode there, I feel like I make some pretty good teams. I could make a decent GM, but again, and I'll usually get things to fit under the budget and salary cap, different things. I figure out ways to finesse that and get guys at certain prices so I can afford other guys, kind of thing. But again, that's the GM's job. That's why he gets paid, is to figure that out. It's not only us, the fan, to figure out how we would be the GM, because some of these fans, depending on the team, they would be happy doing all kind of crazy things and trading all types of players and letting these guys go or signing these guys or giving this guy this much money or that much money. Like, a lot of teams would be broke if the fans were the actual GM. Let's just put it that way. So yeah, Travis Kelce got his money, which again this is their the Chiefs' third big extension this offseason. They got the Mahomes deal done, got Chris Jones done. Now they got Travis Kelce done. 4 years, $57.25 million extension. Ties into, I think he had 2 years left, so ties into Kansas City for 6 years, I believe. The deal has just under $25 million in guarantees. The average annual value is slightly less than George Kittle, but I mean he's also a little bit older than George Kittle, so it makes some bit of sense. Over the past 4 seasons, he has the 5th most receptions, 5th most receiving yards, and tied for 7th most touchdowns in the league with all pass catchers. Again, this is not just a tight end thing. And when it comes to receiving yards, he's over 1,000 yards more than the next closest tight end, who is Zach Ertz. So, again, makes sense. He's at 1,000 yards each of the past 4 seasons. He's 30, so not young, but also like 30 is not that old. Especially at tight end. We saw Tony Gonzalez play for what felt like forever. Gronk's the only other like really good recent tight end, and obviously he's had a lot more injuries than Travis Kelce has. But then also he retired for a year and came back. We'll see how he looks once the Buccaneers and once the game started up and everything. But because I know he was looking a little beat down that last season, in my personal opinion. But hey, we've seen like I said, we've seen tight ends play for a while. So we'll see how, again, as with every deal, we'll see how it works out, if it was worth it, if it wasn't worth it. I mean, the guy won a Super Bowl for you. Well, helped you win a Super Bowl. He didn't win it by himself. But he helped you win a Super Bowl. Like, he's been with the Chiefs the whole time. Like, of course, they're going to give him the money. Not George Kittle money, but comparable money. And speaking of not getting George Kittle money, Zach Ertz is the third tight end. Usually the third tight end people mention. Obviously, in the next season or two, maybe a Mark Andrews could be up there. And a lot of people think high of Evan Ingram. If he ever puts it together, he could, and stays healthy, he could be up there. I'm Trying to think who else could be at that level soon. T.J. Hawkinson, Noah Fant, Austin Hooper. I'm trying to think who else. That's probably Hunter Henry could be up there, but he's always hurt too. So it's one of those things. Like, yeah, Darren Waller was good last year. So again, you got good tight ends, but these are normally the top three that you would say, like, all right, who are the best tight ends in the league? Usually these three in some semblance of an order. Usually, Ertz is third just because he lacks the run after catch ability of those two guys. But you could argue he's a better route runner, and because he's not as athletically gifted, he has to do different things in order to make sure he gets open, and he's almost always open. So, like I said, everybody got to do things a little bit different. He's not, like I said, he's not the physical freak, the pure athlete that a Kittle or a Kelsey is. But he finds ways to get open. He gets first downs, makes the catch. He doesn't really drop the ball too tough. And though he won't get a lot of yak, he still finds ways to get into the end zone. And he's been the Eagles' leading receiver for since Carson Wentz has been there. Partly because their wide receiver situation has been very spotty at best during his time there. But yeah, so he's another guy who's looking for an extension. They tried it. I think Eagles reported out earlier today. They tried it sometime during last season or last offseason maybe, or even earlier this offseason. Regardless, obviously didn't get signed, and they don't seem that close on a deal at this point. So it's just like one of those things where, like, Ertz is 30. I think he's not like that old, but he's also not too young. He is 29, turns 30 in November. So yeah, he's a year younger than than Kelsey. He's like 3 years older than Kittle. But he's a year younger than Kelsey. And so you would think, and since he's not a guy that dominates you physically, you would think, all right, his game should be able to age gracefully. I mean, you see Jason Witten still out there cashing checks in the NFL, even though he's been slow for years now. Hasn't been able to run away from anybody for years, but he still finds ways to get open from time to time. So you think he could be something like that. But unlike Kittle and unlike Kelsey, the Eagles have a tight end they drafted in the second round, a tight end who can do some of the things that Kittle and Kelsey can do, at least from a yak standpoint. Maybe not be the route runner that Ertz is, and definitely has more drop issues than Ertz does, but also he's a really good blocker. Not that Ertz is a bad blocker. He's gotten better as a blocker, but that's, again, in the second year, he was not nearly the blocker that Goddard was. So it's one of those things where fans and people were discussing, like, all right, what do you do with Ertz? Especially because everyone knows, like, the Eagles cap situation next year does not look great. Though if you get cut here, cut there, restructure here, restructure there, they'll be fine. And I know Howie already has that figured out, that they know that he needs to do certain things. But at the same time, that could stop them from giving him a Kittle-like extension, because I imagine he's going to want something near that money, maybe not exactly the guarantees and the total amount, things like that. But he's not going to want that much lower than Kelsey got, because he considers himself one of, if not the best tight end in the league. So if these are what the other tight ends are getting, why would I sell myself short? Which makes total sense. But like I said, the Eagles have more leverage here because I think he's under contract for 2 more years. And also they have who could be his replacement already on the roster. And he's going to be a guy that's obviously going to be much cheaper because he's not one of the best tight ends in the league, right? I mean, he's a top 10 tight end in my opinion, but he's not like up there when you talk about the best tight ends in the league. He's not there yet, so he's not going to cost the same amount as an Ertz would. And plus, it's like, obviously everyone knows they use a lot of 12 personnel, which is 2 tight ends. But a lot of that you could argue is because of the fact that their receivers have been so bad for the last 4 years. Or just whether last year they weren't that bad, but they were just like obviously injuries decimated them. So if they have a better receiver or better receivers around Wentz, maybe they don't need to rely on 2 tight ends as heavily. Maybe they can just stick with Goddard. And like I said, if Rieger hits and one of Hightower or Quez Watkins hits, and JJ improves, maybe you continue to get something out of Greg Ward, and then, like I said, maybe you continue to draft guys. I don't imagine this is going to be the last year they draft a receiver. The receiver class, whether it's college football or not next year, is going to be good, especially at the top. And it's going to be another situation where, like with this draft, where there's a lot of good guys that maybe fall into late first early second round kind of thing, just because there's just so many good ones. Like you're not gonna pick receivers 1 through 10. Like that's not gonna work. There's other positions: quarterbacks, linebackers, pass rushers, offensive linemen, different things where other teams are gonna need that position. And also, not everybody needs a receiver. Obviously, the Eagles will next year, but not everybody's gonna need another receiver next year. So, I think as that position improves for the Eagles, it's a scenario where they could be willing to be like, you know what? Let's go a little lighter on the cash here. Let's go a little lighter on the cash here and not give the big time extension to Ertz. Especially when he'll be signing it, he'll be what, like 31 potentially. If he doesn't sign it next offseason, he'll be 31 when he'd be signing that extension. So it's like, could you do it? Like, 31's still not that old. But like I said, you're going to have a guy in Dallas Goedert who I think is 25 right now. So he's, again, a lot younger. Hasn't been the main tight end since he came in, so has fresher legs, different things. He just turned 25 in January. So, I mean, he's going to be around. He's not even close to touching his prime yet, personally. So then, like I said, he hasn't been the main tight end, so less wear and tear on his body. Less hits he's taken. And even when he's had to step up for Ertz like he did in the Dallas game, I think he caught like 9 for 91 and a touchdown. He was good that 4-game winning streak for them, for the Eagles. So again, he could be a guy's right to step in. So it's like, do you trade Ertz, get something back for him, and get something good back for him? Because again, as a tight end, so you're not getting a lot back, but he's one of the best tight ends in the league. And he's also going to be on an affordable contract, at least if they trade him like next offseason, say. But also, do you risk doing that to upset the quarterback? Because he's Carson's best friend. He's his most reliable and his favorite target. You could argue, though, I mean, that could very well be Jalen Reagor. It could be Miles Sanders. Could be Deshaun. It would have been Deshaun, in my personal opinion, last year if Deshaun stayed healthy. But then, you know what happened with that. So yeah, just like if they find other pieces around him, would they be willing and be like, you know what, I think we can function without Zach Ertz because we have good outside pieces and we have a good tight end waiting in the wing. And also, Josh Perkins wasn't. Again, he'd be a fine second tight end. He's obviously a really good third tight end. But I think he'd be a fine second tight end if he improves his blocking, whatever. Because he's basically just like a big receiver at this point. But yeah, he looked good down the stretch too for them. So just like it'd be interesting to see how they handle it because again, they don't have to pay him anytime soon, but he's also he's going to potentially be a Hall of Famer. He's on a Hall of Fame track. He may very well, assuming he doesn't get injured, he may very well reach the or set the Eagles record in receptions this year. Like I said before, or like either before or around his 30th birthday. I think he's only like 60 or 70 behind. He's caught like 100 balls in seasons before. And again, he's not old. So it's one of those things where like he could easily be the Eagles all-time leading receptions guy. He's a guy that should get a jersey retired, have game-winning catch in the Super Bowl. Like, so he's done a lot for the franchise. You don't want to disrespect guys like that, as you've seen, they keep bringing back Jason Peters, even though he's been older and beat up. Again, he's still fine when he plays, but he'll be in and out of games. He's missed time, obviously, in a couple of years, kind of thing. So it's like they don't have issues bringing guys back if they mean a lot to the team. But it's just one of those situations where could this be a scenario where like, you know what, we got good pieces everywhere else, and this is a tight end at the end of the day, it's not a left tackle. So, but like I said, Ertz is fit as a tight end. This is per at Eagles PMC, just the Eagles fan account. He's 5th all-time in yards per game, 9th in catch percentage, 15th in catches, and 22nd in yards. And he's only 29 and ranks this high despite spending the first 3 years as a backup. And he also owns the NFL record for catches in a season by a tight end. So he's potentially a future Hall of Famer, and you don't just usually trade future Hall of Famers at 30. Especially when they're still good and useful and could be of use for your team. It just seems kind of odd. But hey, we'll see how it goes. He hasn't got paid yet, but maybe he will get paid eventually. So we'll see how that goes. But yeah, speaking of guys, well, not necessarily speaking of guys doing well, but if we're switching on gears over to baseball, because, you want to try to diversify the sports here on the podcast. There are a couple people that could be threatening 400 for a season. So talk about that. Talk about if I think they can keep it up. And also talk about if people are even going to care about it. Because as we talked about many, many episodes ago, it's a 60-game season, so, are the records going to stand? Or the MVP, is anybody going to care? The Cy Young, is anybody going to care? Kind of thing, maybe, maybe not. But still, hitting 400 is hitting 400. You still hit 400. Again, it's not 162 games, it's only 60 games, and we'll talk about it, see guys that are off this hot streak and see if they can continue it throughout the season. Plus, we'll talk about Mookie Betts making history tonight. So, we'll discuss all those things right after the break. Stay right there.
Are you looking to get your college football fix? Looking to get the latest news on your favorite school's team? The GSMC College Football Podcast is your ticket to all things college football. Join us as we talk college football from the national championship, the college rivalries, the bowl game, to the Heisman Trophy. To which conference is the best? We've got you covered for the Big Ten, SEC, Big 12, the Pac-12, ACC, and everything in between. Download the GSMC College Football Podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Google Play, or anywhere you find podcasts. Just type GSMC in the search bar.
Here again on the GSMC Sports Podcast, presented by GSMC Podcast Network. So, as we talked about, I think this was the Monday episode. We talked about teams that are playing well and doing well, and just to just kind of keep everybody up to date of what is going on in the MLB world. The Rockies were one of those teams. They are leading the NL West. They are currently 12-6, which is percentage points ahead of the Dodgers, who are 13-7, and there are 2 games up on the Padres, who are 11-9 currently, for that first place spot in the NL West. So they've been playing pretty well recently, 6-4 in the last 10. They lost their most recent game, but it happens. It is what it is. They're one of the better teams in the league. The only team with a better win percentage than them currently is the Cubs, who are 13-3. They're dominating those Central teams. Because it's one of those situations where the second place team in the NL Central is still the Cardinals, who have played 5 games. Haven't played a game in almost a week and a half. They're not going to play a game until Saturday. I think they have doubleheaders every other day, starting from Saturday to Wednesday, something like that. Their schedule is going to be crazy. And then in the AL side, outside the Twins, you got the Tigers, who are alright, the Indians, who are alright, the White Sox, who are alright, and then the Royals. So not exactly murderer's row. But yeah, so back to the Rockies. They're playing well, and a part of the reason why they're playing so well is because they have Charlie Blackmon, who is currently hitting .472 on the season. He's in .472, has 3 home runs, 20 RBIs, which is the 20 RBIs tie for the lead. The batting average is obviously first in the league in terms of average. He's coming off of an over 4 game on Wednesday. Still, like I said, still hitting .470. So there's one of those things where in a shortened season, it's not exactly out of the realm of possibility to see a guy hit 400. And like I said, there's only 60 games. You're basically just a hot, start to a season. Because again, 4 games didn't even take you to the All-Star break. It's normally just sometime in early June, somewhere around there. So we've seen guys be hitting that high. or be hitting that well, I guess I should say, for that long. And then obviously, again, the rest of the season goes, and maybe they fall off, maybe they keep up the pace kind of thing. I know my dad was telling me that George Brett, and I think he was talking about Wade Boggs or some of the guys that have had like 400, 390 averages in like late September, or beginning of September, late August kind of thing. It's like, oh wow, they might really do this. Obviously, that's not what Charlie Blackmon is going to be doing, due to the fact that he won't be playing that many games. But he could be the first 400 hitter, I believe, since Ted Williams did it. If he doesn't, and this is in 1941, I believe, was the last guy is when he hit 400, and he would be the last guy to do it. And like I said, please correct me if I'm wrong on that, but I believe Ted Williams in 1941 with the Red Sox was the last guy to do it. And again, will he really be added to the record books? That's kind of what the debate is, because people are like, oh, look, this is very impressive for you to be able to do this, even for 60 games. To hit 460 games is still impressive. And again, he's hitting close to 500. That's even more impressive. But, like I said, should he be added to a list of guys that played over 100? I don't know how many games they were playing, like in the 1800s and stuff like that. But I know this is the 1900s, or like they're playing like 160 plus games. So you've had guys that again have had hot streaks, had cold streaks, different things. Where again, not to say that Charlie Blackmon is going to be hitting this great for the entirety of the season, but you're less likely to have cold streaks, and you're able to keep your hot streaks longer in a condensed season. Like you start off really well, you get off to a great 30 games. It might be hard to derail that in the next 30 games. Not impossible, but it might be hard to derail that kind of thing. As opposed if you get off to a hot April, and then you have the rest of the season. All right, if you hit 400 in the month of April, cool. That's great. Even if you hit 450 in the month of April, that's great. You still got 5 more months to keep that up. And like I said, most people, baseball is a difficult game, so most guys aren't going to do that. You get into the Hall of Fame getting on base by a hit 3 out of 10 times. No other sport can you do that kind of thing. So it's one scenario where everyone knows it's not going to be that simple just to do that at that level. But again, it's not impossible. We have a guy hitting 472 almost a third of the way through the season. I think he's played in 18 games total up to this point. So it's like, hey, you gotta see, can he do this? And who knows for certain? Because again, I can't predict the future. I'm not sure Charlie Blackmon's going to stay this hot for this long. But he's a good hitter. It's not like this is like completely out of the blue. He's a very good hitter. He's hit for over 300. Three of the last 4 years. Only year he didn't do it was in 2018. In that year, he hit 291. He's a career 300 hitter. And I know the Rocky, like he plays in Colorado, the altitude, the ball doesn't spin as much. You gotta get more fastballs, things like that. I know he was making the point, or I think I was watching one of the TV shows and they were talking about like he was making the point of that, like because of the fact that he sees more fastballs in the altitude, because again the people can't get like the grip and the spin's not as good, and like the rotation and the drop on off speed pitches isn't as like curveballs and sliders, the breaks and things like that aren't as good. He has to readjust himself everywhere he goes because like, all right, at home I know I got to see this type of pitching. Well, on the road I know I'm going to see more curveballs, I'm going to see more breaking balls because now you don't have to worry about that altitude kind of thing. So you gotta adjust your approach. I mean, everybody adjusts their approach like every game and almost sometimes in every at bat. But you know people are going to be attacking you completely differently now once you're away from Coors Field. So again, it's not to say it's the easiest thing in the world to do, because again, you still got to make contact with the ball. Whether again they're throwing fastballs, breaking balls, whatever, you still got to hit it. It's easier said than done. But he's finding a way to do it. So it's one of those things where it's like, hey, this is something that would be very cool to see. Especially at he's like 34. So I'm not sure how old Ted Williams was when he did it, but I mean that's cool for an older guy to be hitting that well. It's quite impressive in my own personal opinion. Now again, everyone's going to feel differently about it due to the fact, like I said, it's a shortened season. But again, hitting 500 or hitting 400, still hitting 400. No matter, like I said, if you do it for a short period of time, long period of time, it's still somewhat impressive in my own personal opinion. But he's not alone. There's another guy hitting 400 in the AL, and that is DJ LeMahieu. Funny enough, they used to be teammates with the Rockies. That's actually kind of interesting. The fact that they did used to be teammates together. But he's hitting currently .431. So hold on, that means another guy hitting in the 400s as well. So I don't want to leave him out as well. But I know he's hitting players hitting 400 this year. This season. But yeah, so no. DJ LeMahieu, like I said, he's hitting 400, hitting 431, helping lead the Yankees to one of the best records in the AL right now. They are currently 12-8. Yeah, no, 12-6. Excuse me, 12-6 at the top of the AL East. A game up on the Rays, who are 12-8 currently. And I think they're like what? Well, no, they're a little bit behind the A's in terms of winning percentage. So because the A's are 13-6, they played one more game. So again, still one of the best teams in the AL, one of the best teams in their division. That's to be expected. And they're gonna have to see how they handle Stan being out, due to the fact that he's going to be out, I think, a month. Like again, nothing new for them. Oh, Solano, that's the other guy that I was thinking of. Not I was thinking of, but like I knew about. Donovan Solano. Completely random. Never heard of this guy before. He's hitting .458. And he has never hit, well, he's a career .277 hitter. He's never played in more than 111 games. With the Giants last year, he hit .330 in 81 games. So it was not too crazy, but again, he's never really been a big time hitter. But he's hitting .458 right now. So again, I knew I was leaving somebody else out. So again, he's another guy that could easily be in the 400 club. Those are the only three right now. Jose Iglesias is the last one. Well, he's hitting .380, so he's got a little ways to go in terms of the batting average. But like I said, we got three guys hitting over 400 about a third of the way through the season. You at least got to have a discussion on if it's possible. Because again, it's not one of these guys is going to stay hot. You would think. I'd be shocked if all three of these guys completely just like fell off. Or also maybe one of these guys could get hot and rise up. One of these guys hitting, like I said, Jose Iglesias is hitting .380. Sterling Marte is hitting .369. Daniel Murphy's hitting .358. Bryce Harper's hitting .356. Bo Bichette's hitting .352. So maybe these guys get on a hot streak. Maybe they can get up to 400. I don't know. I really think there's a chance we might see somebody hit 400 this year. Which again, 60 games. Is it entirely impressive? Maybe. Maybe not. You could judge it for yourself. But I think it's a very real possibility. Personally. It's a very real possibility. Not just one. Like I said, there's three guys currently hitting over 400, well over 400, in the 430s. A month into this, well, I guess 20 games in the season, not a month, because the way it's like broken down. So yeah, just an interesting thing to discuss and see whether you guys also believe that we might have a guy hit over 400 this season. And speaking of, like again, because it hasn't happened since 1941, that'd be history. And speaking of history, Mookie Betts, as we said, made some history tonight, where he had a 3-homer game for what I believe was the 6th time in his career, which is obviously a record. Well, it ties a record. Let me not say it's a record. It ties a record for most in a career. I think the only other two guys it was Sammy Sosa, and it was one other guy that had done it. Sammy Sosa and Hall of Famer Johnny Mize. I don't even know who Johnny Mize is. Let me look this up. Like when was Johnny Mize? When was he playing? Oh, he's in black and white. I played from 36 to 53. Actually, this was a long time ago. I mean, again, no disrespect to Johnny Mize. I just didn't know personally. But yeah, so like I said, 3 home runs, 6th time in his career. And that's tied for the major league record with, like I said, Sammy Sosa and Johnny Mize. He did it in 813 games. Sammy Sosa took over 2,300, and Mize took over 1,800 to reach that same mark. So, shout out to Mookie. Continuing to set records, continuing to be great. Was 4 for 4 on the night. This was against the Padres. He did this. 4 for 4 on the night with 5 RBIs and got hit by a pitch leading off again. Signed the big extension, 12-year, $365 million on the eve of opening day. Former All-Star, not just former All-Star, obviously he's former All-Star, former MVP, who came over this year to the Dodgers, is hoping to help them get over that hump and win that World Series. And like I said, you want to ingratiate yourself with your new team, and hitting 3 home runs in a game is a good way to do that. He's second on the team in batting average behind only Corey Seager, even though he's played in 5 more games than Seager. And when you have situations where guys like Muncy and Bellinger and Jock Peterson are struggling from the plate, at least in terms of average, you want to be able to kind of make up for that. And he's doing that. He's leading the team in batting average, like I said, in terms of games played. When you factor in games played, he's leading the team in home runs with 7. He's got 15 RBIs, which is tied for the team lead. So he's doing his part. Try to make sure that the Dodgers are where they hope to be come playoff time. And obviously, again, they're in the standings. They make it in the playoffs, all those different things. So I thought that was cool. I didn't know. I didn't realize you knew he'd hit home runs and stuff, but you didn't realize he'd hit 3 home runs in a game that many times. And it done such a short period of time. Because he's only 27 years old. Like, he's still got a long way to go when it comes to his career. So you would like to think he's going to break that record at some point if he's doing it this frequently. I would be shocked if he doesn't continue that path where he's going to do it. He'll find a way to do it again, but he's only been in the league since 2014, so this is his 7th year. And like I said, already has 6 3-homer games. Highly impressive. So like I said, shout out to anybody potentially setting records this year. I think there's a very good chance he might break that record this year. Break the 3-home run record this year. Because who knows? I mean, like I said, if it happens this often, he's basically averaging 1 a year where he has a 3-homer game. Who knows? It could happen this year. It could happen next year. But he'll eventually, you would think, break that record. So we could see some records be broken or new records be made. I don't obviously hitting 400 in a season isn't like a new thing. It's been done before, but it'd be the first time in a long time. Well, like I said, will people count it? Who knows? But it's still, at the end of the day, you can still say I had 400 in the season. If you're like Charlie Blackmon or you're Dom Solano, if you're DJ LeMahieu, you would say I hit 400 in the season. Not many guys can say that. Yeah, was it shortened? Yes, but that's not my fault. I didn't cause the pandemic. I just went out there, hit baseballs. So, it'd be interesting to see how these guys kind of finish out the season. So I'll be continuing to monitor that, and I imagine you guys will as well, for the baseball fans out there. I'll be continuing to monitor that as well, because again, it's something that doesn't happen. Even if it's a 60-game season, it does not happen that often at all. Because if it did happen more often, we wouldn't be making such a big deal about it possibly happening this year. So there is that. And speaking of something that doesn't happen that often, I don't imagine a lot of guys get cut from from their respective teams for trying to sneak people into hotel rooms during training camp. But that happened with the Seahawks. And the way it was done is like really funny, in my personal opinion. It's not funny for the guy, but it's funny for everybody else, because I'm not the one that did it. And not to get to make jokes about it. So, yeah, he's gone, so we'll talk about him, talk about the team, talk about like how and why this even happened. And talk about, again, why the NFL season with no bubble is going to be a little dangerous, because you were counting on athletes to make great decisions for 4 or 5 months. And athletes don't always make the best decisions. So that could be a tall ask. So we'll discuss all that, discuss what happened with him, discuss, like I said, if we could see this happen again with other teams throughout the season. Right after this break. So stay right there.
Check out the show built around the women of MMA. From the UFC, Invicta FC, Bellator, and one championship. We got the fights covered. It's the Golden State Media Concepts Women's MMA Podcast. The latest news of upcoming fights, discussions of previous matches. Join us as we talk to and about the biggest names in women's mixed martial arts. Past, present, and future. When it's the women's fight game, you know where to listen to the Golden State Media Concepts Women's MMA Podcast.
Here again on the GSMC Sports Podcast presented by GSMC Podcast Network. So I believe this was first reported by Tom Pelissero. But the Seahawks waived rookie cornerback Kema Siverand. Don't know if I pronounced any of that right. I believe he was waived on Tuesday. We're just like, oh, everyone was like, kind of like, oh, that's weird, like, because some people thought obviously I thought maybe he can like make the team. I was reading, I was like googling. I had to Google him because I was like, who is this guy? Like, was he like drafted? Was he undrafted? Did he have a shot at making the team? Some people thought he could make the team. Obviously he's not going to anymore. But he was waived Tuesday, and it was like kind of like a weird thing. Obviously, it wasn't like a big national news because, like, unless you're a Seattle fan, you don't even know who this guy is. Or I guess if you're an Oklahoma State fan, because I believe he went to Oklahoma State. But he was waived earlier. Like I said, he was waived on Tuesday. And as we found out, like I said, first from Tom Pelissero, and he was caught on video. On video, so it's not like it's not hearsay. This is not word of mouth. On video, I imagine hotel footage or like training. I think they said on a hotel, so hotel footage, security cam footage. He was caught on video trying to sneak a woman into the team hotel. A source confirmed to ESPN. The NFL Network, Tom Pelissero, first reported the circumstances of Severand's release, noting that the woman was wearing Seahawks gear in an attempt to disguise herself as a player. Coach Pete Carroll's number one rule is to always protect the team. On Wednesday, he praised the Seahawks veteran leaders for sending the right message to the locker room about the need to be disciplined while preparing for a season amid the coronavirus pandemic. The Seahawks have only placed one player so far on the reserve/COVID-19 list. And Carroll confirmed on Wednesday that it was a result of a false positive with wide receiver John Ursa? I don't know how to pronounce all these names. Who has since been reactivated. Severand went undrafted at Oklahoma State and received a $2,000 signing bonus from Seattle. That was tied for the third smallest signing bonus among all Seattle's 17 free agents. So again, this wasn't like a big deal for them. And his agent declined to comment on the matter when reached via text by ESPN. I bet he is, because I imagine he won't be his client for much longer. So yeah, when Twitter heard about this, it was a buzz, because it's like, bruh, what are you doing? Like, it's bad enough if it weren't in the middle of a pandemic, you're trying to sneak a woman into the hotel room. Okay, so let's break down the different layers of this story and why it's like foolish. First off, you're undrafted free agent. You are going to struggle to make the team anyway. Whether like you got to be on your best behavior. P's and Q's, be all up in the defensive playbook, as attentive as you can be in meeting rooms and Zoom. I don't know if they're meeting in person or doing Zoom stuff. On the practice field, you got to take you would imagine you got to make the most of every opportunity you get on the field to show yourself that you can be a contributor to the team, like be a part of special teams if you can, different things like that. You got to do whatever you can to make the roster. So you're already like fighting an uphill battle, and like they said, he was only $2,000 signing bonus. It's not like it was like a big time like, oh, this is a undrafted region that we really wanted. This was a guy that was clearly like, hey, we wanted to get him. Obviously, they signed him, but this wasn't the guy that they were like, oh, we need to have this guy. Like, we need this guy on our team. We think he could actually make our roster. This was a guy that was like, good to have an uphill battle, regardless. So that's one. You're already, like I said, you're already near the bottom of the totem pole regardless. Two, try to sneak a woman into the hotel. how long has training camp been going on? Like, you haven't even started practices yet. Like, how are you, like, this in need of some sort of companionship that you're trying to sneak a woman into the bubble? Like, I guess what? I imagine he's a rookie. He's probably been around the facility for a couple weeks. You would think? He's been around the facility for a couple weeks. So, all right, you couldn't go a couple weeks with no human-to-human interaction? And again, everybody's different. I'm not going to judge, because some people are more in need than others. Some people like to do things more often than others. So again, no judgment here. But you're trying to sneak her into the team hotel. That's crazy enough as it is. 3, you're trying to sneak her into the hotel as a player. So, like, how, like, what size is this woman? That's the third thing. I'm like, if she's just like a normal, average woman, then it's like, all right, like, of course she's not going to be on the team. Most guys on the team are like outside of Russ, like, most of the guys on the team are going to be like 6 feet, well over 200 pounds. Like, again, with like tall, like, muscular. Like, how did you think they were going to, like, I really need to see this video. I'm curious to see how like, big this woman is to where you thought that if you put her in Seahawks gear, people won't notice that she clearly isn't a part of the team. So I imagine they're not staying at the whole same hotel like cheerleaders or stuff. Like, if there were cheerleaders there, all right, maybe you could sneak them by, because people might not know who all the cheerleaders are. That's possible. But when you're talking about athletes, like, you can tell who professional athletes. Well, I mean, not so you can tell who professional athletes. You can tell people that look like they're professional athletes, like, because again, they're a lot bigger, they're a lot stronger, they're like more muscular. It's like, that's just like a normal thing for a lot of athletes. And again, I don't know, maybe this woman was a little taller, maybe she's like 5'10", something that's all right. Maybe you could sneak in, maybe she's like a short corner or something like that. I don't know, but I'm just like, how did you think putting her in Seahawks gear wasn't going to draw a red flag? Because, like, all right, at this point, if you've been at the training camp, they've been staying at this hotel, I imagine this isn't like the first day they've been staying here, you kind of like starting to recognize some faces at least. You might not know everybody's name, you might not know who everybody is, but you're recognizing people's faces. Like, all right, we've seen him. All of a sudden, like, oh, who's this? This is a new person. Like, all right, maybe you could like try to be like, oh, I just signed with the team, blah blah blah, whatever. But then I imagine you got to show some sort of credentials or whatever, and like, I guess, well, you just hope that you could just like sneak by the front desk and no one would notice, like real quick. Like, you didn't even have her come to like a back entrance, like a secret staircase, nothing. Like, you had her walk in. Well, we don't know if she walked into the front, because we won't know from the footage. Hopefully, TMZ gets access to that, because they get access to almost everything. We need this footage. I got to see how this went down, and I think we all. Anyone that's like in need of a good laugh probably wants to see how this went down, because, like I said, everybody was cracking jokes about this earlier today. So I got to see how this worked. Like, what did she come in with, like practice gear? Is it just like a t-shirt, a sweatshirt, like sweatpants? Like, I got to see what was the rundown of the outfit he told this woman to put on in order to sneak past hotel security potentially. And fourth, and the biggest thing, is, we're in the middle of a pandemic, my guy. You can't just be sneaking in random people in the middle of a pandemic. That doesn't make any sense. Not only are you putting her at risk, you're putting yourself at risk, you're putting your teammates at risk, you're putting your coaches at risk. Like, what? Like, for what? For what? Because it's not like you can't even do this. Like, once this, like, now that this is out and your name is attached to it, like, you can't. Anybody tries to sign you now knows you have bad judgment. No, clear as day, you have bad judgment. You don't have your teammates back. You mainly care about yourself. Like, all that stuff's out. Like, how do you? I hope he stayed at what's his name, Oklahoma State long enough to get a degree or something, because I don't know what shot he has at football now. Because again, how can I trust you if I'm an NFL coach? How can I trust? Again, we don't know. Maybe he'll get another chance. Like I said, we really don't. We won't know until it happens. But if I'm an NFL coach, how do I trust you? How? Because again, you clearly seem to have no regard for the rest of your team. as is evidenced by the fact that you were willing to risk bringing a stranger into the hotel who's not getting tested like you guys are. And they're not doing. She's not getting tested every day. She's not following different procedures, doing different things to make sure everybody stays healthy. I mean, well, we don't know. I'm not going to assume she's not. But again, I know for a fact she's not getting tested every day. Because no average civilian is getting tested every day. That's just not happening. Like, that's reserved for mainly athletes. Which, I mean, hey, shout out to them. But, like I said, most people aren't getting tested. I don't even know if doctors and nurses are getting tested every day. So I would imagine the average person is not getting tested every day. So again, you put yourself at risk, you put your team at risk, you put her at risk potentially from all catching the Rona. And like I said, for what? Because it didn't even work. On top of the fact that, like, again, it was a terrible idea, a terrible plan from the beginning, it didn't even work. So now you just look like, now you look even worse because the plan that you concocted in order to get this person in didn't even get her past security. It's not cheap. I mean, I imagine if you try to, like, get her out afterwards, like, all right, maybe you could. But, like, and I would like to think she got caught in the front. And it's like, oh, like, how did that work? Yeah, because it said that she was trying to sneak a female visitor into the hotel room. Into the hotel. So I would imagine that means that she was entering in, and I was like, what? Like, come on. Like you think I'm a fool. If I'm security, like, oh, you think I'm a joke. Like, you think I'm not good at my job, you think this is going to work on me. And so I gotta see the video. And again, it's not the worst thing to come out about an athlete. Obviously, the Darius Guy situation, 10 times worse. A lot of other athletes have done much worse things off the field than try to sneak a woman into the hotel room. But this is just objectively hilarious. In person, it's just objectively hilarious because, like, bro, like, what are you thinking? What do you think? Like, your career is going to be over because you try to sneak a woman into a hotel room wearing Seahawks gear in the middle of a pandemic. Like I said, your name's out there. Like, your whole family's going to know. All your friends are going to know. Like, they're going to be looking at you like, dude, you had a chance to be in the NFL and you threw it away for... Again, we don't know who this woman is. Could be his fiance, could be a girlfriend, could be a random person. We don't know. But you threw a potential career away, potentially thousands and thousands and millions of dollars if he was actually turned out to be any good. For what? Exactly. For what? I would be pissed if I'm saying not because you want to, like, have him give you money and things, but just like it's like you had the chance that a lot of people don't get. And you blew it before it even started. Really, you didn't even make it you didn't make it into, like, we had real practices. And again, this is why these non-bubble sports are going to deal with this all the time. We saw it with the Indians. And the guy, please, like, try to come out and defend himself, be like, oh, the media's painting it wrong, even though basically what the media said is, like, basically the story was that, like, they were in Chicago for a series. He went out with friends, went back to their place. Everyone went out with friends, got some food, went back to their place, missed curfew. Brothers caught him when he tried to come back in, and he had to quarantine. And I mean, that basically sounds like what the story was already. Something I don't know what was being mischaracterized from what he heard. But like I said, you've seen people do things that they probably shouldn't do, and then it ends up being an issue. Saw with the Marlins. What happened with them? Seeing what's happened with the Cardinals. They haven't played a game in almost 2 weeks. They had another guy another staffer test positive today. It could be a false positive because they'd had 2 straight days with no positives. But again, we got another guy test positive. All because some people just wanted to be like, hey, let's be. I don't want to say they were reckless, but just let's be a little less cautious than we should be in the middle of this whole thing. And now, like I said, the Cardinals' whole season's upside down. They have played 5 games. In an already shortened season, they missed 2 weeks of games. Well, over 2 weeks. Because, like I said, they played 5. Most teams have played at least like 18, 19. Something like that. They're down. They have to play back-to-back. So I guess they have an off day in between. Like, they have to play a doubleheader, off, doubleheader, off, doubleheader. And I don't know how they're going to make up the rest of these games. But they're just going to be playing doubleheaders left and right the rest of the season. Because that's what other way they get the season finished. If you want to, like I said, now it's like inconvenience other teams because now they have to play a bunch of doubleheaders that they didn't want to play. They shouldn't have had to play just because the Cardinals were reckless. It was like even even having that happen, Indians people still went out. Again, they had like the Clevenger was also like apparently he was out too, doing some stuff. So it's like again, you're relying on these athletes to be smart and keep themselves out of harm's way, and that's a tough ask. Not to say athletes aren't bright, but just like sometimes athletes are going to do this. It's like, hey, look, I'm going to do this, and it's not going to be right. It's not going to make any sense, and it's going to be dangerous for the, like I said, for the rest of the team in case you bring that Rona back to the facility. But it's going to happen. I don't think that, I agree that I would hope nobody's else going to try to sneak nobody into the team hotel using players' gear. But I don't think it's going to be the last time we hear a story about a guy like, trying to get somebody in or going out and during the season or on a road trip, different things like it's going to happen. It's already happened multiple times in the MLB. It happened even after we saw what could happen if you do something reckless in the MLB. It still happened like that next weekend. The Indians are in the Central where you're playing the Cardinals. You know, wow, we've missed games. Well, I don't know if they've missed games, but like certain teams that are in our division and stuff have missed games because the Cardinals were reckless. And here I am going to go have dinner with friends, even though they literally put down restrictions to say like, no, don't do this. And the guy was like, but what if I did though? What if I did? And then you found out what happened. I had to quarantine for 4 days. And then now it's a big story. Now you're the guy that like broke protocol and doesn't care about the rest of his teammates. That's the image that's being painted, is because you're willing to, hey, even though we're not supposed to do this, let me do this and potentially risk getting the Rona and exposing everybody on my team to the Rona. Get them for what? For some dinner? To hang out with some people? Again, I understand everybody's a little bit different. People have been lacking the ability to interact with their friends as much as they would like. But, I mean, it's 2020. We got FaceTime. We got Zoom. Google Hangout. Whatever you want to use. Teams. Whatever you want to use to communicate with people. You could do that way. And just again, after the season's done, y'all can hang out again. Do whatever you want. You can go to a restaurant. You can do whatever. And it's like for 2 months, just like stay in the bubble. Or stay as safe as you can so we can finish the season. And whatever happens after the season happens after the season. That's up to you. I imagine Manfred doesn't really care after that. But once the season's done, y'all can do whatever you want. Just we trying to get the season finished. We're trying to push through. We're trying to get this going. We can't have people out here being reckless. So like I said, it's going to be interesting to see if we have any more cases like this. Hopefully not, because like I said, it's just trying to see a person into a team hotel during training camp is wild. It's not even like a week 7 game like, oh, you feeling bad, you feeling down, want to bring yourself up. It's training camp. Like the season hasn't even started yet, and his brother getting waived because he's trying to sneak somebody in. It's like I said, that was a wild story. Wild just because it's like objectively hilarious. Like, bro, what are you doing? But it'd be interesting to see if that was somebody else, how the situation would go. Because again, it's easy because, like I said, you buy him a barrel, you buy him a roster, you could waive him easily. It's no big deal. What if this was Jamal Adams? What if this was DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett? Honestly, I would hope Russ wouldn't do this. But again, what if it's Russ? What if it's Dwayne Brown? What if it's if they bring back Clowney? What if it's Clowney? What happens then? Do you fine the guy? Do you suspend him? Do you keep him away from the team? Something like that. Like, what happens if you find this out on a Saturday night? Are you going to suspend the guy? You're going to fine him? You're going to sit him for a half? Sit him for a quarter? I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see because like I said, I imagine this isn't going to be the last case of this happening, but I'd be interested to see how it would go if it was a more high-profile player. It's easy to cut the bottom of the barrel guy, to waive him. He probably wasn't going to make the team anyway. Hey, it is what it is. If it was Bobby Wagner or KJ Wright, things would be handled a little differently, I believe. Because, I mean, that's just how the world works. Different people are treated differently based on your status. And, I mean, again, is it fair? No, but that's just how the world works. So, that'd be interesting to see. So, I'm curious to see if that happens, if and when that happens. Because I believe this won't be the last case of someone being a little reckless during the NFL season. Especially since there is no bubble. So, you're just leaving these people up to their own devices and putting the onus on them to be safe. We'll see if that works. We shall see if that works. But that'll do it for me here today on the GSMC Sports Podcast presented by GSMC Podcast Network. I want to thank you guys as always for listening. If you haven't already, subscribe to the podcast. Make sure you never miss an episode. Make sure you're always on top when we drop our latest stuff. Also, wherever you listen to your podcast, Apple, YouTube, Spotify, Google, wherever, like I said, Anchor, Speaker, wherever you guys listen to your podcast at. If you could give us 5-star rating and write us a nice review, it'd be very appreciated. Very helpful to us to see what you guys like, what you guys dislike, the ways we can improve, all that fun stuff. And also, if you're on social media, we're on social media, so you can find us there. Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. We can talk, we can chat, we can debate, we can discuss. We can talk about the playing games. We can talk about the first round of the NBA playoffs. We can talk about the first round of the NHL playoffs. Talk about the first first 20 games of the MLB season, how that's going. We can talk about NFL training camps. See how you think your team's going to do this season. Talk about college football. Do you think it's smart for certain conferences to play? Smart for them not to play? Is it weird that certain conferences are playing or not playing? How do you think spring football is going to work? What's going to happen with the draft? Laugh at this guy for trying to sneak a woman into the hotel. We can do all that stuff. So, like I said, reach out to us there, and we can have a nice little discussion about any topic that you guys so choose. As always, before I get out of here, I want to give a shout out to the essential workers, so first responders, doctors, nurses, EMTs, firefighters, delivery drivers, post office workers. Hopefully y'all can get some bread soon. I know what they're doing to Postal Service to try to, again, sabotage the election is wild, especially since it's happening in plain sight and the president's admitting to doing it. But hopefully we can get that figured out because, again, you guys should be able to do your job properly and have the funds to do so. So hopefully that can get straightened out. Like I said, delivery drivers, FedEx, UPS, Amazon, Uber, Lyft, DoorDash, Postmates, Uber Eats, whatever. Everybody that's allowing, or retail workers, grocery store workers especially, because I know you guys got to deal with a lot more stuff than the average person. Anybody's helping to make sure that the average person can stay safe and get all the things they need in a safe manner. You are appreciated by myself. If by no one else, you are appreciated by myself. Also, wear a mask. But that'll do for me here today. I've been Chris Blades. That has been my time. And until next time, peace out.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network, from movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.